all the evil in the world generates from someone, right? But I would say, I think anti-Semitism specifically is a targeted attack from Satan.
This is the Prayer Culture Podcast. Yeah, promote your ministry as much as you want.
I mean,
totally fine with that.
Yeah,
I don't think you guys are heretics, so I'm okay with it.
Cool.
I don't think.
Despite the allegations.
Wait, allegations?
Allegedly.
Don't look in the comment section.
No, I turned those off. Legitimately, I had to, actually.
Really?
For Watch Therefore on our YouTube channel, I had to turn the comments off.
No.
This actually is good. This is good talk.
Yeah, we're
right here
recording,
for the
right?
podcast.
We're recording, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give me a heads up next time.
It's more natural this way.
That way I won't right off the bat start bashing pastors and churches in America.
Right.
The West is... No, I'm kidding.
Well, we welcome honesty and hot takes. So all that works as long as we're able to define the things and,
Good.
Make it clear. But all right.
No, here's the deal. I'm not for real gonna bash churches or pastors or anything like that. There is a reality of American pastors not understanding Israel in the prophetic sense these days. But at the same time, there's still plenty of good pastors out there. It doesn't make them, not Christians. That's it.
Right.
So I just want to preface that now with you guys before we actually do start recording this.
No worries.
That's not the angle I'm coming from.
Patrick's a non-Jewish American pastor, so
you
can totally bash him.
We know each other. I'll see you on Sunday. That's all I'm saying. I'm bringing my shofar.
Right.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, since we've already started this conversation up with heresy and American pastors,
And shofars.
Let's introduce Jack.
Well, welcome back to the Prayer Culture Podcast. Of course, Patrick and I are on, and actually, it's been a little bit since you've been on because you've been having some stuff going on. Too busy for us here, us lowly podcasters. But today we have a very special guest, Jack, on, and also Yaakov is. How does the name thing work? Is that your real name, or what does that mean?
So, like every good Jewish boy, on the 8th day, I was given a Hebrew name along with my Brit Milah ceremony. And so my legal name is Jack. So what's on every legal document is Jack. But my grandmother, my father, who are both Jewish, my grandmother's side of the family is Jewish, called me Yaakov my whole life. And so, it's Hebrew for Jacob, which is the closest thing to Jack. As far as the translation goes. And so when I lived in Israel, people called me Yaakov, but when they spoke to me in English, they would call me Jacob or Jake. And so I never told, I just didn't have the heart to tell them that wasn't really my name, By the time it got far in enough, I was like, I'll just go with it. So,
that's cool. What does that mean? Usually
Yaakov? Yaakov, it comes from, I think the one who grabs on, right?
Something like it's in the Bible.
Deceiver,
I think it says something on there.
Yeah. When Jacob, he was coming out, the one who grabs the heel.
Yeah,
Right.
And so, so that's
heel grabber.
I know.
Man, come on, bro.
Yeah.
What was that?
From day one,
Okay, so Jack, you are a Messianic Jew.
I am.
And so tell us a little bit. You've kind of got into it, but tell us about your upbringing and your ministry in Israel.
Yeah, so I was born into a believing household, thank God. Actually, my parents came back to the Lord when I was about a year old. So I wasn't originally born, but I grew up only knowing the Lord church, growing up in a Christian household. My dad was radically saved out of a life of drug addiction, alcoholism, everything that goes along with all of that. The Lord just overnight just healed him. Overnight, no 12-step program, just saved him and made him aware of his sin. My grandmother, who is Jewish, got saved in the Jesus movement in the 60s in Ohio. And so by the time it had spread from California all the way over to Ohio, she got saved. And so there was an element of my dad being around these radically saved hippies in the 60s and the 70s. And so that kind of played a part in him coming back to the Lord later on in life. And so thankfully, I was able to be raised in a Christian environment, a Christian home. We were one of those families that never missed a Sunday, never missed a Wednesday, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And eventually the Lord called my dad into ministry. He became a pastor when I was in like middle school officially. And so, I was like I said, I was raised in that environment, but at the same time, I always knew about and was reminded of my Jewish heritage. My grandmother, who was a believer, had moved to Israel by herself in 1984.
Wow.
And she made what's called aliyah. And so aliyah means to go up. So when they say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, they're saying, bo na'aleh, let us go up. And so she made aliyah by herself. And in today's terms, aliyah is just a term for Jews who return to Israel from the nations, from living in the nations.
Okay.
And
Return
so,
as in like move
to live.
there to
Yes.
live? Okay.
Yeah. Immigrate. They immigrate to Israel, to the Jewish state of Israel.
Right.
And so I was always reminded of and knew about my Jewish heritage and taught about my Jewish heritage growing up, and how that related to my walk with the Lord. And so thankfully from a very early age, I was exposed to all of that. And that was always a part of my life. Before moving to Israel, we didn't necessarily like observe all the feasts that we see in the Bible. We knew about Hanukkah. We celebrated Hanukkah, of course, for us kids. I was like, all right, 8 nights of presents, let's go.
Right.
All my friends were jealous because they had Christmas
Right.
and they had the
Lucky.
one day. I was like, 8 nights, I'll take it.
Right.
So, but we also, we had Passover, and we knew about the feast, and we were taught about the feast, but we didn't actually, like, for me as a kid, it was like, all right, cool, that happened in the Bible, and that's part of what my ancestors did. But we're in America. That's not really something that we do. And it didn't really become real for me as a Jewish believer in Jesus, which is all that a Messianic Jew is just a Jewish person who believes in Jesus as the Messiah.
Right.
And it didn't become really, I guess, mine or my own until I moved to Israel, and I was exposed to like the culture of, we're Jewish, this is our identity, but we also believe in Yeshua. We also believe in Jesus as our Messiah. And this is why we celebrate these feasts and have these holidays, you know?
Yeah.
And so growing up, I mean, it was crazy. A lot of my friends, I grew up in Southeast Houston. So for a lot of my friends, I was the only Jew they'd ever known. And had ever, been around. And so they were like, in school, they were like, hey, can you wear your yarmulke to school tomorrow? I had one, it's not like it was something that was like normal in my life, but I was
Pull
like,
it out of the drawer.
Literally,
Yeah.
And so, I did that a couple times, just for fun, just for the attention and stuff like that. I was in, I was in middle school, and so,
sometimes you throw on the yarmulke for fun.
Exactly. Just for fun, you get the bobby pin. That's how it stays up, know? And actually, fun fact: the bigger the yarmulke, the balder the man. So that's the key behind that.
Direct
honestly.
correlation.
There you go.
Okay.
So there's no hair to clip the the yarmulke.
We're
too,
unlocking
so
mysteries here.
and so
It's like for the Muslims, like the bigger beard. Like Patrick would be an all-star if he were a Muslim, but
right,
it's good he's
right.
not.
Well, at
but,
least you have the mustache part, so it works.
Yes.
So that's we won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in Dubai once, I'm pretty sure that I was picked out of a crowd and they thought I was Jewish
Really?
and they picked on me.
I mean, I see it, Have you ever done the blood test, the DNA test?
At the time, I was like, why are they singling me out? And then later on, I think it's because I was chosen.
They thought you were chosen. Turns out you were, but for a different reason.
Yeah, for
right?
a different reason.
Yeah.
Why did you... Sorry, just jumping in for a second. Why did you move to Israel?
That's a great question. So like I said, growing up, knew about my Jewish heritage, having known about my grandmother moving to Israel, making Aliyah, doing this immigration to Israel. It was always in the back of my mind, like, that might happen to us. My dad growing up, I'd be like 10 years old. My dad would be like, hey, if we ever move to Israel, would you go with us?
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm 10. What else am I going to do? Obviously I wasn't that sarcastic at 10 years old, thank the Lord. But,
get my own apartment,
Exactly.
Not legal age to get a job, but, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll ride my bike in the cul-de-sac all day,
Make it work.
Exactly. I'll be
Hustle.
fine. And so I was like, yeah, of course, I'd go with you. And so when I turned, I was about 20 years old. We had been living in Houston doing this thing. My dad was a pastor. We were just leaving the church that we had been a part of for almost a decade, which is where he first became a pastor, which is a whole other story and more of my dad's story. But It was about 2014, and my dad was going to Israel for the Feast of Tabernacles. One of the best things, I mean, that's the busiest time in Israel, Feast of Tabernacles. It's one of the high holy days of the fall feasts. And he always loved going. There's those huge celebrations. People from all over the world flock to Israel for these big parades, and they celebrate Israel. They celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. And so he was going, and the Lord told him, take this guy with you. There's this guy he had been discipling, and we had just planted this new church. We had left the church we were in, and we were taking on this new thing. And the Lord told my dad, take this guy with you, and he's going to use him as a witness for you on this trip. No idea what that meant. Me, my mom, my sister, we're in the States, we're in school and stuff like that. And while on this trip, the Lord starts showing my dad and this guy that was with him, who he had been discipling, it's time for you to move to Israel. My dad had wanted to move to Israel for 20 years since he came back to the Lord, since the mid to late 90s. He started going on tours after he got saved and just really fell in love and rediscovered his Jewish heritage as it related to his new faith in the Lord, new grown faith. And so all these things start happening. People start speaking to his life. Friends we had there start saying, I feel like the Lord's saying it's time to come to Israel. And me, I'm 20 years old. I'm just starting out my life. I'm trying to figure out, what does the Lord want me to do with my life? And my dad comes back from Israel saying, hey, me and your mom are moving to Israel. You need to pray about whether or not you're supposed to go or not.
Wow, that's an announcement.
Come on.
He actually I don't know if he remembers it this way, but he told us over the phone. That's what from Israel.
Really?
He was like, all this stuff happened. And there's one story I'll tell you after all this that kind of was like the nail in the coffin, so to speak, of like the Lord just made it super clear that this was time for at least my parents to go. And so I prayed about it myself and really sought the Lord about it. And, I was in college working, like I said, trying to figure out what the Lord wanted me to do with my life. Most of my friends are getting married. They're starting their lives. They're starting their new lives with their spouses. And I'm here like, I think I'm supposed to move to Israel. I think I'm supposed to just drop everything. I had my plans and stuff. And I distinctly remember the Lord telling me, if you don't go, you're going to miss out on something. And that was it. It was clear for me from that day that I needed to go. And I had no idea why. I was like, I don't know anybody over there. I'm 20 years old. I don't have any plans for the future. I just know I'm supposed to go.
Just say yes.
Exactly. It was one of those situations, and one of the final things that happened with my dad on that trip, and this was, like I said, October 2014, something like that. There's what's called a Shabbat elevator in Israel. I don't know if you've ever heard of these, but Shabbat in Israel is very serious. It's you can't, no work, absolutely nothing. Pushing a button in an elevator is considered work on Shabbat.
Right.
And so they have these things in hotels and other places, other buildings called Shabbat elevators that just go up and down all day. They just stop at each level, so the doors are automatically open.
Oh, wow.
So you don't have to push a button, you just get in there. So if you're Orthodox or practicing Judaism, you don't have to take the stairs, basically.
It feels like it's more work to wait for each stop.
That's a whole other thing. Don't get me started.
Walking American perspective.
It's a very American.
Honestly, I mean, walking 2 miles to the synagogue rather than driving is, in my mind, more work. Than
right.
pushing the gas pedal.
Yeah, sure.
So
that's why we invented the car.
That's a whole other
here
thing,
nor there.
And
different
podcast. Right. That's another episode. And so my dad was. There's this. They're going to their hotel room, back to their hotel room, and there's this lady who's clearly not an Israeli. She looks like a tourist, standing in the Shabbat elevator, and she's just standing there and waiting for it, and it's not doing anything. And so my dad goes up to her and says, hey, this is a Shabbat elevator. You might want to go into this one, because they still have other elevators for tourists that don't practice Judaism. And so you can still hit the button. And so she follows him into the other elevator to my dad and this guy that went with him on the trip. The doors close, and the woman turns around and looks my dad dead in the eyes and goes, the Lord is speaking to you. Don't wait and don't doubt.
Whoa.
This was after like a full week, trip of people in his life there in Israel saying, the Lord's speaking to you, don't, it's time for you to move to Israel, everything like that. She looks him dead in the eyes and says that.
Whoa.
She gets out, and they never see her again.
What? Okay.
So they go immediately into the hotel room, get on their knees, start, praying to the Lord and seeking the Lord. And I feel like it was either that same day or that same week where my dad called us from Israel and said, "Hey, we're moving to Israel."
I bet he did.
Start, throwing things out. Start cleaning out start cleaning the house.
Wow.
And so just after that time, there was just a series of events that happened that made it so clear, like undeniably clear. It was one of those things that's like, I can't not do this or else I'll be in direct disobedience to the Lord. That showed me I was supposed to move to Israel, and me and my parents.
Wow.
And we have this ministry called Blessing Israeli Believers that we had just started, which I can get into in a little bit if we have time.
Yeah.
But we were having a conference at a local church that had opened up their place for us to have this conference. And during that conference is when my dad announced that we were going to be moving to Israel. My family's going to be moving to Israel. And so we were on a break in between one of the sessions, and a guy came up to my dad and said, "Hey, I'm moving your family to Israel." And my dad looked at him and said, "Nobody's ever told me anything like that before. What exactly does that mean?" He said, "I work for a shipping company that moves DuPont employees all over the world. My people are going to come to your house. They'll pack every single item you want to take with you, put it in a box, put it on the truck, take it to the boat, put it on the boat, get it off the boat in Israel, and take it to your new place and unpack it for you.
Wow.
That's huge.
You won't touch a thing."
See, I've moved to the other side of the planet and back, and it is a major hassle.
It is
it
huge,
is.
especially if you're
enormous
in
task.
Texas and you own Texas sofas, Texas-sized sofas.
Yeah. No, we didn't even try that.
No, it's like when we moved to Africa, it was like 2 suitcases a
Right.
piece. That's it. Nothing
Right,
else.
right. Hindsight,
And that was hard enough.
Yeah.
Right,
And
exactly.
I've tried to ship things across the world, and it's like months.
Yeah.
You have no idea when things are coming.
Yeah.
That's enormous.
they're
Now that did
coming.
happen.
If they're coming.
That happened, but we didn't have to touch a single thing. A whole team came over. They were so careful with our stuff. They
awesome.
packed everything right,
Praise
and
God.
stuff like that. And it was just one of those things that was just like, it costs an obscene amount of money to do something like that. With the amount, it's all based off the weight and everything like that. But they packed up our entire house
Wow.
for free.
That's incredible.
He was like, "We're
Praise
doing it
God.
for you."
So generous.
And that was like, one of the other things. It was just
Sign.
like, you're doing it,
yeah, yeah.
This
I'm
is
talking
happening.
to you. Don't
Right.
wait and don't doubt.
All excuses eliminated.
Literally, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And so that's how the Lord took me to Israel.
That's
And
amazing.
so that was October of 2014 is when my dad was in Israel and heard this from the Lord. And then by May of 2015, we were in Israel.
Wow.
So in
Praise God.
about 6 months or so, 7 months, the Lord moved us.
Now, is it
Partly.
true that in Israel, the majority is like Orthodox Jews and Messianic Jews are kind of looked down upon as just second class or something like that? I've kind of heard some stuff like that, but I
Yeah.
don't know. Is that true?
So the majority, I would say these days, are not Orthodox. The Orthodox are becoming more of I wouldn't say a minority, but they're not the majority. Most Israelis today are secular Israelis. They don't necessarily, they're either atheist or don't know what they believe. Excuse me. And so, but as far as the Messianic community, they make up probably, I don't know what the percentage is probably off now, but it's probably less than 1% of the entire population of Israel.
Wow.
So they're very much in the minority, and they are, even though the majority probably aren't Orthodox, there is still a lot of persecution that happens to believers in Israel at the hands of the Orthodox.
Okay.
You have to be very careful about how open you are in certain areas, I would say. Definitely you wouldn't go into certain parts of Jerusalem, screaming on the streets that Jesus is the Messiah. You're going to literally get stoned.
Wow.
That is something that will still happen today. And so there are certain aspects of being a believer in Jesus, a believer in Yeshua in Israel, that you have to be very wise, I would say. At the same time, I've never seen an openness to the gospel in Israel like I have today, that exists today.
Now, is that primarily among Orthodox or the people who are secular, or like
primarily
both?
among the secular?
Okay.
Now it does happen. There are Orthodox Jews getting saved, but like I said, you have to walk in wisdom with that, because for an Orthodox Jew to receive Yeshua, it's literally can be a life or death situation for them.
Right.
Their family will either, if they don't just flat out disown them, or there is a real possibility of the family sending people after them.
Wow.
If they leave their faith in Judaism.
The other Abrahamic religions are like, whenever somebody becomes a Christian out of them, because I had the same thing with Muslims when I was engaging with them. Generally, they were threatened or something. Sometimes it was serious, sometimes it wasn't, but it's kind of like, generally it's like, no, you can't convert to that because that's not okay.
Right. And well, even in that sense too, I'm also seeing an openness to the gospel like I've never seen before in Muslim countries. Muslim countries.
Oh, come on, really.
I know somebody here that's literally like in Kingwood who on Skype or Zoom is preaching to entire Hindu villages, and entire Hindu villages are getting saved over Zoom.
Wow. What?
Muslim imams, a group of like Muslim imams are getting saved in Pakistan, and they're asking for Bibles and methods and how can I share with the rest of my people here in Pakistan, in my village. Like entire Pakistani Muslim villages are getting saved.
Come on.
Praise God.
And so I think just the times that we live in there's an openness to the gospel like there never has been, I think, And so how that relates to Israel.
End time harvest. Wink, wink.
Exactly. You know what? I think so. And so, that's so that there is an openness and there are opportunities for that to happen even in Orthodox communities in Israel.
Are you saying you have an opportunity for me to go and shout about Jesus in Jerusalem? Was that what I just heard?
I would say you take that up with the Lord.
Okay.
You walk in your own wisdom and faith. That's between you and God.
If someone comes and says, I'll move your family.
There you go. Okay. See, that's usually, that might be, again, between you and the Lord, but I'm not,
Right.
There's no exact blueprint for how the Lord works in our lives,
I'll just listen closely.
I thought I was going to live in Israel the rest of my life, but clearly the Lord had other plans,
Yeah.
But he definitely used that time for me to really make my faith my own,
Yeah, praise God.
Yeah.
What's one of your crazy stories from being in Israel where the Lord did something and it's like, wow?
That is a really good question. Aside from just getting me there,
well, that's one wow.
Right. That was the start. That was the start. Let me think about that for a second. Because my whole time there, for me, was just life changing in every way.
Well, what was your ministry like? What were you doing in your ministry specifically? Maybe that would help.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do, we have this ministry called Blessing Israeli Believers, and its sole focus is highlighting what the believers who are often overlooked in Israel. There's ministries out there that give to Israel, which is amazing and great, and do that. But oftentimes what happens with those ministries is they are giving to the people who are directly involved in persecuting the believers in Israel. Unbeknownst to them. For the American Christians, they don't know. They just want to support Israel in any way that they can.
Right.
But oftentimes these larger ministries, I won't say who, have agreements with the Orthodox communities, for example, that they won't share the gospel, or that or something like that, and that they'll just give to Israel. And then a lot of the times, the people receiving the money, these funds, large sums of money, are the ones who are persecuting our brothers and sisters in Israel. And so, one of the things that the Lord did was showed us this ministry that really had been out of existence since Paul's time. There's a verse that talks about, let me look. It's in Romans, and it's Paul talking about the believers in Jerusalem. I have it right here. 1 second.
Right. He talks about it. And even in 1 Corinthians, he talks about giving, I think, to Jerusalem also.
Right. So, this one is Romans 15, 26 and 27. For it pleased those from Macedonia and Achaia to make a certain contribution for the poor among the saints who were in Jerusalem. so the believers in Jerusalem.
Right.
It pleased them, and indeed, and they are their debtors. For if the Gentiles have been partakers of the spiritual things, being grafted in into salvation through Jesus, right? Their duty is to also minister to them in material things. And the Lord really opened our eyes to this verse in the sense of this is something that really wasn't happening since Paul's time. Paul was talking about getting a collection to take to Jerusalem when he went to Jerusalem for the feast. And then we were posed with this question, well, if believers in America, for instance, are giving to these ministries that are giving money to the people who are persecuting our brothers and sisters, who's giving to our brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
And so the Lord birthed this idea for this ministry, and ended up calling it Blessing Israeli Believers. And so our main goal is to specifically get funds into the hands of our brothers and sisters in Israel who are doing the work for the kingdom.
Yeah.
They're out getting the gospel. They're sharing the gospel on the streets. They're planting new congregations in Israel for those who are getting saved.
That's so
They
great.
are advocating and literally fighting for pro-life in Israel.
Wow.
Abortion is legal in Israel up to the 9th month.
Wow.
And so we're working with people who are serving Holocaust survivors. The amount of Holocaust survivors in the world is dwindling rapidly. A lot of them are in their 80s and in their 90s. And we work with people who are serving them on a daily basis almost, helping them with funds. They do soup kitchens for them. They take them out on trips just to get them out and about and to minister to them and just be there with them in their final moment, in their final days. Yeah. And so we're working with these people and partnering with them in this work that they're doing and raising awareness on this side. And so part of what we were doing in Israel was helping to complete that bridge in Israel, creating those relationships with those people in Israel, the believers who were doing all of this work. And it's people you would never hear about in any other form or any other sense. They're not out there trying to get their name out there. They're just doing the work day in and day out.
Right. And the more public and recognized they would be, the harder it would be for them to do their ministry, right?
Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Israel, a lot of these people have become known because of what they're doing, but outside of Israel, nobody knows who they are. They're small fish, They're not these people that were raising millions of dollars. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but but at the same time, their focus is the kingdom. Their focus is the people. Yeah. Getting the gospel out, getting to the true reason of why they're doing it. You know,
that's hard ground.
It really is.
That's really hard ground. That's honestly, I think a lot of times when we think about unreached people groups, I mean, Israeli people might be the last people to come to your mind because they're all over the Bible.
Right.
You
would think they were there at the beginning, right?
Yeah. But
they're God's people.
I mean, the ones that come to your mind, are Sudanese or North Korean or China or something like this. And you don't think of Israel right off the top of your mind, but less than 1%. I mean, that's unreached people.
It really is.
And very hard ground. So that's a great work.
Well, and that leads well into my next question. So what are misconceptions you've seen in our culture in America about Israel? Yeah.
I mean, a big one I would say is that I've even encountered my whole life is how can you be a Jew and a Christian? Mm-hmm. That's a big thing. It's like, how can you, I thought you were Jewish. How can you be a Christian too? And it's a common misconception that because I'm Jewish, I can't do this or I can't be that. Me being Jewish is part of my ethnicity. It's in my blood. It's something I was born with, It's not something that I just decided one day, I think I'm going to be Jewish, I'm going to be Jewish today. That sounds fun,
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Like, that's unique. I think nobody's Jewish anymore. So let's be Jewish, Like,
bring it back.
It's so unpopular. Let's do it, It's the new hipster, right?
Which, from what I've heard from Jews, is actually discouraged. Like, joining Judaism is not like this thing where it's like, everybody should join Judaism. It's like, no, we don't like.
Be careful.
Don't really join us unless you want to do that.
Right, exactly. Are you sure about that?
Christians are like, come on, Jesus has enough room for everybody.
Right, exactly. And so I think that was a huge one for even growing up for me, that I literally, people all the time are like, how can you be both? And it's like, I'm actually just more of a completed Jew by believing in Jesus.
Mm.
You know, I'm a Jew who's found his Messiah.
Wow.
You know,
Come on.
and so that's probably the biggest one that I would say. Another one is probably that Jews in Israel hate Christians. I feel like that might be a common one. It's not true at all. You know, even the Orthodox Jews, they don't hate Christians. Their real problem is with Jews who believe in Jesus. That's their real problem, is because of the same spirit that said crucify him is still at work in that area.
Just an antichrist spirit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You think about principalities and powers in this world that are over regions. You know, you have the Prince of Persia, right? That's spoken of in the Bible.
Yeah.
That spirit didn't just leave when certain people died, right? It just found new people to inhabit.
Wow.
So that same spirit that said crucify him in the New Testament is still alive today and still operating today, just in a different form.
Wow.
You know? And so the problem they have, the problem that, like, let's say Orthodox Jews have with with Messianic Jews, is that they, because of what's happened to Jews throughout history in the name of Jesus, they see it as a betrayal.
Yeah.
Oh, you believe in Jesus? That's what our persecutors believed in.
Yeah.
Throughout history. That's what the Crusaders believed in.
That's tough, man. That's complicated.
So it's more seen as like, that's why they dislike people like me so much. It's not so much that they hate Christians. It's the what's been done to Jews in the name of Jesus throughout history that they have in it.
So in a way,
that causes this
they
division.
feel like you switch jerseys.
Essentially, it's like this. It's literally seen as a betrayal.
Yeah,
that's why when an Orthodox person gets saved and leaves, when somebody leaves Judaism supposedly for Jesus, the family often will have a funeral for him.
Really,
they will literally have a funeral. Like, let's say it's in a community, in an Orthodox community, they will have a community-wide funeral for that person.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So that's a big misconception. I think is that all Jews and hate Christians and stuff like that. Christians are some of the biggest supporters of Israel, and so therefore they're not. It's most tours that go to Israel are from either Christian-based Catholics or Christian churches that are coming to Israel that support tourism. You know,
right.
So that's a big
we're
misconception.
good. It's just you.
It's me. I'm the problem.
It's just you.
You know, like, yeah.
Well, and I've seen it in, like, when I listen to Dr. Michael Brown talk, who's a Jew, and other Jews when they talk, who are Christians, like Messianic Jews who talk about like replacement theology and stuff like that. I hear the passion behind it, like how wrong that is because of the persecution that. So even on the Christian side, like. Yeah. When you're saying Israel is fully replaced or they have no significance to God's plan anymore or anything like that, well, here's the things that were done in the name of that theology or ideology.
Yeah.
And it seems pretty difficult.
You're the ones who killed Jesus. That's how it was often portrayed. You know, you guys are the ones that said crucify him. So therefore, you are the ones who killed him.
Wow.
Not... It's our sin that killed him.
Yeah.
You know, it's our sin that put him on that cross. He went, and it wasn't them that did it. It says in the Bible, he laid his life down willingly so that we could be saved.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And with the replacement theology, it's not that it's just wrong. You know? It's not biblical. It's just plain and simple, you know? It's not that the Lord is done with Israel. It's everything it's the opposite. Everything revolves around Israel prophetically. You know, Israel is at the center of Bible prophecy.
Oh snap! That's when I need the sound effects.
Right.
I went there.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So getting into that, we're getting to that right now. Okay. So then tell us about that. Like, so you believe that God has a distinct purpose for Israel, it seems. So tell us scripturally and everything about that. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, first thing I would throw out there is Romans 10:1. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they may be saved. That was Paul, right? That's the Lord's desire is that his people, his chosen people, will be saved.
But Jack, isn't it the Lord's desire that everyone not perish?
It's true.
What's the difference between Israel and any other person I'm praying for?
Where did it start?
start? Where did what
Who
start?
were the first believers? Who were the first Christians?
Oh,
Jews.
Jewish people were the first Christians.
The Lord
yes.
said, you'll go from Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, into the othermost parts of the world. And so from the beginning, Israel's been at the center of it all.
Unless you consider the centurion who had greater faith than any Jewish person.
And the Lord highlighted that.
There's the sound effect again.
Dun, dun. He went there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it is interesting to your point, Jack, that Paul said the Jews. You know, like you're saying, well, but the Bible says it's God's desire that all should be saved. So what's different? Well, but he didn't say all. Like he's making a point about the Jews.
It's not, yeah,
right?
It's not saying that one is more or less significant than the other. Of course not. But at the same time, look at Romans 1:16. For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first, and then for the Gentile, and then to the nations. And so if you look at the biblical order of this, it starts with the Jew first, and then goes to the nations, or the Gentile, the non-Jew. And so it's not a matter of significance. It's just following the Lord's order. You know, if we believe in the Lord's order of things, if we believe in the Lord's order of the home, if we believe in the Lord's order of how do you get saved, the Lord. You know, there's a pattern. The Lord sticks to His patterns. You know, the Lord sticks to His things. Right. And so, and I'm not, putting one on a pedestal over the other. I don't want you to get that I don't want that misconception to be, but I'm just reading the Bible. That's, I'm not the one saying it. I'm just repeating it.
Yeah. So you're not saying that Israel is distinct in that they're God's favorite people to save, or that God wants to save them more than He wants to save anybody else or something. It's just that's where He started on purpose. He came into the world as a Jew. He ministered Jesus only ministered within the borders of Israel. And He was clear about His desire to do that. And so it started with the Jews, and then the gospel emanates out to the nations. So you're saying there's something distinct about that we shouldn't overlook.
100%. Yeah. I would say, I think it comes back to, like I said, the biblical order, the Lord's order of things. He wouldn't have told Paul to put it in the Bible if He didn't want it to be known, if He didn't want us to know it, right? And that's why He says to the Jew first. But at the same time, we see Israel at the center of Bible prophecy throughout all of the Bible. One of the things we see is we even see the rebirth of Israel, Israel's physical rebirth prophesied in Isaiah. Have you ever seen that before?
I've read a little bit on this, but tell us.
Yeah?
Tell
Okay.
us about
Go ahead
So,
with the scriptures.
If you're following along, I'm in Isaiah 66, verse 7 through 9. So let me just preface this real quick with when a woman goes into labor, does she have the labor pains first or the child first?
Pains.
She has the labor pains first, right? So look at Isaiah 66, 7 through 9. Before she was in labor, she gave birth. That sounds weird. Before her pain came, she delivered a male child. Who has heard such a thing, and who has seen such things? Shall the earth be made to give birth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? 1948, ring a bell? In one day, Israel physically being rebirthed as a nation after not being in existence for 2,000 years. Is Jewish people scattered all over the world? For as soon as Zion was in labor, she gave birth to her children. Shall I bring to the time of birth and not cause delivery, says the Lord? Shall I who cause delivery shut up the womb, says your God? And so here in these 3 verses, we see the physical rebirth of Israel and the later foretelling of the spiritual rebirth of Israel. It says later on in the New Testament, in Revelation, that all Israel will be saved. All Israel that's alive at that time, after all these things, after the tribulation happens, all that stuff. And we don't have to go into all that. But we see clearly here that before she gave birth before she was in pain. And so what this speaks to is the physical rebirth of Israel that happened in 1948. And then we're still waiting for the fulfillment of the spiritual rebirth of Israel.
Wasn't there also a migration of Jews because, like, the Jewish state, I forget, it was some kind of funding or something that encouraged Jews to come back to the land. Something like that already happened, but I don't remember when it was.
Well, there was a few things. There was there was World War One, and then there was World War Two.
Yeah.
World War II. After World War II, we see a mass migration of Jewish people back to the land of Israel to escape the Holocaust, or to after, there's many who went before the Holocaust happened and as the Holocaust was happening. And then there's many that came afterwards as well, because that was the only place where they could go. After the Holocaust, nobody wanted to take Jews in. So what's a common phrase is that World War I prepared the land for the people, and World War II prepared the people for the land. So after World War I, we see this mass, if you look at historical findings, there's a mass rebirth physically in the land of Israel, where it was marshland, malaria-infested swamps, totally uninhabitable, and then miraculously after World War I, vegetation starts coming back.
Really? I've never heard that.
Cultivation starts happening again in Israel. Now, who was it that was there doing it? There was still, even though Jews had been dispersed throughout the world in the Great Dispersion, there were still Jews that were in the land as a remnant, keeping the land there. So there were still Jewish families, and yes, there were a lot of Arab families there as well. If you go into even a lot of these Arab villages, because I've been to some of them, I drove past them every week. You can go into some of these Arab villages and they have what's called mezuzahs on the door. Do you know what a mezuzah is?
No.
It's something from Judaism where you literally have the commandments of the Lord in this little box, and then you're supposed to put it on the doorpost of your house.
Oh, okay.
So every time you walk into your house, the commandments of the Lord are on your house.
Yeah.
Posted on the doorpost. Put my word on the doorpost of your heart.
Yeah.
They take that literally and put that on the doorpost of their houses.
Okay.
And so they kind of do this ritual thing where they like kiss it, kiss their hand, touch it, and stuff like that in Judaism. But you go to these Arab villages and people there are like, yeah, they're Arab people, but they're like, yeah, we've had these things on our homes for centuries. Our families did it. My grandmother did it. Her family before that had it there. And so it's like there's evidence of Jewish life in these Arab villages, and they don't even know how or why they do it. They just know it's there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so after World War I, you had this rebirth of the land literally coming back to life. The swamplands, the malaria-infested swamps are turning into farmland. And so World War I prepared the land for the people, so the land coming back to life, making it inhabitable again. And World War II made the people right for the land. Where was the only place they could go? The only place I can go, Jews coming out of the Holocaust, the only place I can go is Israel. That's the only place that'll take us in. Nobody else will take us, And so you see, and then 1948 happens soon after that. And so you see this physical rebirth in one day, 1948, May 14, Israel becomes a nation again, physically. And so now we're just waiting on the spiritual rebirth to happen.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. That's really helpful. Thank you.
And there's many other, there's many more other verses that could, that play into that show the prophecy, that prophesy about the rebirth of Israel physically as a land. There's just not enough time to go into all of it today.
Yeah, right, sure.
Right.
But there's resources out there. You can find resources. I know people, there's people you can find courses. I've helped build them for people that show and
Bless
highlight
Israeli
all
believers.
Of these, all of these. We're getting there. Yeah.
All right.
That show these prophecies and spell out and lay out these prophecies.
Yeah. Wow.
Very, very vividly, very clearly.
Yeah. Love it.
So,
well, one thing that's really in the American public language and sector right now is anti-Semitism, and just how we think about that. Do you believe that anti-Semitism is like this targeted attack by Satan, or is it more just kind of like, okay, there are several evils in our world, and anti-Semitism is simply one of them?
Yeah.
But how do you think about that?
I think all the evil in the world generates from someone, right?
Sure.
But I would say, I think anti-Semitism specifically is a targeted attack from Satan, using his the evil in the world, the evil hearts of people in the world, to target God's chosen people, to target Jews. And we see that from the Garden of Eden. You know, God created two people in the garden, and from day one, He was conspiring against them, conspiring against God.
God's
you know,
plan for them. Yeah,
yeah. You know, we've had in our modern days this conspiracy theory. You know, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, yeah. No, I can't listen to you. You're a conspiracy theorist. You know,
right.
it's been deemed a bad term. You know, but in a real sense, every single day the devil is conspiring against the Lord, right? Yeah. And so obviously there's people out there that take this to an extreme, and there are people who are kind of not all there, right, with some of these things.
Sure.
But as far as conspiracy theories,
not all conspiracies are created equal.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, I'm not. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. But it's a real sense that the devil is conspiring against the Lord every single day.
Absolutely.
And part of that
is real. Yeah,
is to derail His prophetic plan, which heavily involves Israel and the Jews. If there's no Jew that exists, there's no Messiah that comes, right? Because Jews are Israelis. Jews are from Israel. So if Satan had taken out the Jews, the Israelites, before the Messiah could come, before Jesus could be born, there's no Messiah to come to go to the cross for our sins, right? Yeah. And so I know that's you know, yeah. So
it's very much like the storybooks, you know, where the king kills people, or no, in real life, like Herod tried to kill the babies to eliminate the king.
Right.
You think he was doing that on his own?
No, Satan
was using the hatred and the evil in Herod's heart to try to derail the prophetic plan of the Lord to bring Jesus into the world.
Yeah.
And so he's been doing, like I said, he's been doing that since the Garden of Eden.
Right.
And so, yeah, to answer your question, I think, 100% anti-Semitism is a targeted thing used by the devil to attack Jews.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, if God says He loves something, then Satan says, well, I hate it then.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And that goes beyond the Jews, right?
You know, like that. But look at all the things that God has said about Israel and His devotion to Israel, His patience with Israel, His desire to save Israel, all these things. Of course, Satan would go, well, I know I want to destroy that.
Right.
You know, just to grieve God and try to derail His prophetic plan.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why, even here with Christians, right? Like, there's this just general, like, oh, Christians are this or that, all the things that we aren't actually. This thought process, prevailing mind, you know, and then laws get made and stuff that are trying to stifle Christianity. Because there's this unspoken and kind of a lot of times irrational wariness or even hatred of Christians specifically, as opposed to other religions. It's kind of like, why?
Right.
It doesn't even make that much sense, really, when you look at it, as opposed to other religions that are operating, you know, here, that are like, you know, maybe even more against some things that secularists love, you know, but it's just, it's Christians. It's like, why?
Right. Yeah. Christians are also by the same thinking, you know, Christians are often cast as judgmental, hateful, mean-spirited, exclusive, these kinds of things. And even for certain reasons, you know, like certain kinds of things that Christians call sin, that the world attacks Christians for calling it a sin. But then they completely leave alone or even celebrate other religions who are way harder on people who sin like that.
Right.
Where we're going, hey,
it makes no sense at all.
No, we're saying, hey, there's actually forgiveness. You know, there can be repentance and forgiveness and grace and come into the family. And these other religions are like, no, kill them.
Right.
And then they celebrate the religion that wants to kill. So, it is like an irrational, which to me, I know to all of us, just points to a supernatural root. You know, it's not like, well, A plus B equals C. You know, it's just a supernatural bent toward hating the things that God loves.
Exactly. Yeah. hating things that are considered good in his eyes, right?
Right.
When there's that verse that talks about, I think it's in the Psalms, that talks about when vileness is exalted in the earth, you know, when you call evil good and good evil, you know, and we see that every day, right? More so now today than ever before, I think, you know, or at least since Noah's day, right? Noah's day, in Noah's time, it was considered the most corrupt time in the earth,
right,
and the most populated and most corrupt. And so I think we see that happening again today.
You think we're as bad as Noah's day?
I would say so. I mean, look at the laws we have nationally. That's law in our land. You know, there wasn't something that had abortion as a law in Noah's time. Was it happening? Yeah. You know, a baby sacrifice was happening all throughout the Old Testament.
It's still happening.
It's still happening. We
Violence
just put a different term on
it.
A
key marker of that.
Right.
Violence, corruption.
Sodomy, probably.
I mean, you know, it was definitely there, right? Definitely part of it.
Genesis 6 says that every intention of the thought of man was only evil continually.
100%.
Like, that's the darkest possible picture you can
Pretty
paint.
dark.
Yeah.
That's just a canvas painted black. You know what I mean? That's as bad as it gets. So I am thankful that God does have people in the world.
The remnant
now,
is there.
You know, God's light is shining in the world.
Yeah.
His spirit is in the world. And so that's the only reason I would say I don't think it's as bad now as it was then. It was like there was Noah.
We're pretty close.
And now
I think we're
there's
pretty
it
close
will
now,
be.
you know.
Do you think it will be though, Patrick? Like, and we're just not there yet?
I
Or?
think we should talk to Jack about the Jews.
That's another episode, right?
Yeah, that's another one. Man, we got to have you back like 4 times now.
Hey, content is content, right?
Right.
No, it's funny because me and John were just talking about this. We did like a pre-mini episode because he had this whole timeline thing, right, John?
Parallelism between Israel
and the church.
Okay.
But he was talking about how he believes we're in the Babylonian stage of the Babylonian exile stage of our time.
Okay.
And I mean, a lot of that makes sense, you know, and that's what, you know, in the end times it talks about Babylon, and Babylon is the archetype of what is good, which is Jerusalem, right?
Yeah.
And so, interesting. But anyway, all that I think is really helpful in us understanding how we can pray for Israel, because in prayer there is power, right?
100%.
And often in our very secular society, we don't put much stock in prayer, but prayer is super important. It's the most important thing to God, the most powerful thing we can do. And so, but we want to pray in accordance with God's will, accordance with His Spirit, in accordance with His Word. And so for Israel specifically, Jack, how do you believe we can pray for them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's one place in the whole Bible, I've never seen it anywhere else, where we're specifically called and commanded to pray for a specific place. And that's Psalm 122:6. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper who love you. And that's not a prosperity doctrine thing. That's not the route you're supposed to take, but there is a prosperity that comes with walking in the Lord's order, like we were talking about earlier, right? And so that's the only place that I see in the Bible where we're literally commanded to pray for a specific place in the earth. And so, I mean, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It's as simple as that, you know? That's a good place to start, at least.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't know where to start, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Right. So if you were going to, because, I mean, this is a prayer podcast.
Sure.
You know, we're trying to equip and help and encourage the church to pray biblically, faithfully, spiritually, you know. So you as a Messianic Jew, you have it in your heart to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Now, when you think of the peace, can you expound on what all is in your heart? What are the desires God's put in your heart that you're wanting for Jerusalem?
It's a great question. I think that, that definitely really helps take it deeper than just, here's the verse, now do it. You know, like, right?
Yeah.
I'm a very
What are we
simplistic simplistic person, right? The Bible says it, so I do it,
probably
you know?
makes you a better disciple.
But hey, I'm not putting myself there. You said it, not me.
Okay. What if I said it?
See, yeah, right. But no, I think when it says pray for the peace of Jerusalem, it's talking about, Lord, may your Spirit fall on that city. May your salvation come to your people. Save your people Israel. Because Jerusalem, in a sense, it's used as like a sense of a general term for your people, Israel, right?
Representative
So
of
you think Jerusalem, you think Israel, you think the Jewish people, right? And so, I think that pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Lord, save your people, save your city, because that's where he's going to bring his throne and create the new heaven and new earth. Is going to be based there in Jerusalem. That's where he's going to sit on the throne of David,
right?
Is in Jerusalem. So really praying for the peace of Jerusalem is praying for that new throne to be put there.
Wow.
I love that. So not like physical peace now necessarily, more about the peace that passes understanding, that when in the New Testament he's writing to a persecuted church, God's going to give you the peace that passes understanding.
Sure.
It's not a peace of this world, but it's a spiritual peace that will manifest physically when Christ returns and establishes his kingdom.
It's ushering in that, Lord, may your prophetic plan come to fruition. As bad as it might get here on the earth, to get to that point, we have the blueprint. We know how things are going to get, Yeah. But praying for that peace is, Lord, I know things are crazy in the world today. I know things are upside down seemingly. I don't know where to look sometimes. Bring your peace. Bring your peace.
That's good.
Yeah. Love that.
Kingdom come.
Kingdom come.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, thanks for coming on. It was amazing having you on. Oh, before we go, though, tell us a little bit more about the ministry, your ministry, and how people can get connected to it.
Yes. So Blessing Israeli Believers, you can go to bibtv.org. We just launched a brand new television program for this ministry that's based that's all about highlighting those people that we were talking about earlier that are doing these things. And so we do interviews with them. It's a weekly television program, and I'm the producer of it. So I'll also be creating the YouTube channel for it here pretty soon. And so you can go to our website, bibtv.org, and you'll be able to find all the links for that there.
As a reminder, the Prayer Culture Podcast is a ministry of two or more, which is a crowd-funded ministry. So if you enjoy this content, please check out our website and giving page listed in the description. Also, when you have a second, hit the like and subscribe button.